too much about Rita. I met her. I have a friend that we're now calling Flaky Larry. Instead of Crazy Larry. But anyway, I asked him to come down here and do a lead for me, and she is brave enough to claim Larry as one of her friends in a public place. So when they told me that she had a story of inspiration, I'm like, listen, anybody that'll claim Larry in a public place, I gotta have them come back and speak to. So I'm grateful to hear her story along with you guys. And with that, I'm gonna give you guys Rita. Yay! Do all this, or you okay with there? Okay.
Hi. I am Rita, grateful recovering alcoholic addict.
Hi, Rita.
I've been sober for 10 months this time.
Yeah.
So I've been saying this lead in my head for a week now. I'm very glad to be up here to just say it and get it out. So that's what I'm just going to do. I was born in Barberton in 1982 to a 16-year-old father and an 18-year-old mother. They never had nothing on their own. You know what I mean? They were just kids. So I was the first grandchild on both sides of the family. Just to kind of give you guys a little bit of a background of what I was born into, my dad by this time was already a very, very damaged individual. He wasn't just a 16-year-old with a drug problem. He was abused by his mother in every way possible. And he also had a brother that my biological grandmother treated like a person would treat their kid. So there's my dad, you know, whatever. And my grandpa, he was a long distance truck driver, so he was never around. And when he was around, he was the sweetest man. We just all loved him. He was so sweet and kind and loving to us all the time. But he was gone a lot, and I don't know. Looking back as an adult, I don't know if he just stayed gone to stay away from everything at home, or if he just was in denial. But he was just on the road, and when he was home, he loved us, and when he was gone, he was gone. So my dad at this point, he had severe issues, and my mother, she came from a family where as long as everything looks good on the outside, nobody talks about their real feelings. There's no vulnerability, no self-awareness. My grandma grew up in the 50s, and it was kind of really like that vibe still, like keep it together, look good, go to church, and that's how it's going to be. So there was like no self-awareness nowhere. And so I come into the world, and my parents had their own place because my grandpa, he was my dad's enabler. He would always pay the bills, stuff like that. But they had their own place, and as far back as I can remember, like my earliest memories as a child is like hiding in my toy box in my room. My dad was very violent, and I don't know why. It must just be God. But my sister and I have a little sister that's 13 months younger than me, and we never caught none of the physical abuse, and we were never sexually abused. So I thank God for that. But the chaos that my dad caused, always growing up, we always had to move. He was always drinking, always beating up my mom, and that was just what life was for me and my sister. And you know, he would beat up my mom. We would leave in the middle of the night. We was always getting drug out of the bed in the middle of the night, put in a car, whether it was to go look for my dad out smoking crack somewhere, or running from him. I remember one time, I was probably only about 3 years old. We lived in a trailer, and my mom had to barricade us in my bedroom in our trailer, and drop me and my sister out the window, and told us to run to the car. So that was just like what life was. And then when my pap wasn't on the road, that was that little bit of normalcy that we could cling to while he was there. And by the time I was just a product of my environment. By the time I was in grade school, I never fit in nowhere. We wore dirty clothes to school. Never had any friends, really. We moved all the time, so like we never had a chance to make friends. I remember my dad would always, his friends would always come over and party. Our house was like their party house. And that was fun to me. I remember playing by the fire, the loud music. That was fun to me. I always liked it, and I always looked at the grown-ups, and I thought, when I grow up, I want to drink like them, because it looks fun. Needless to say, I didn't wait until I grew up. By the time I was like 9 years old, I was stealing my dad's roaches and drinking the beers that weren't finished and stuff like that. And my parents, my mom was really codependent with my dad. She was, like I said, was not self-aware at all. So by the time, whenever it was me and my sister until I was 10 years old. Whenever I was 10 years old is whenever my mom and my dad got a divorce. Also, my mom got pregnant, and my little brother was born, and then he was only maybe like a month or two old when they split up. A man came to look at a truck my dad had for sale, and my mom took us kids and ran off with him. And I mean, you couldn't blame her, you know, it was nothing but devastation at our house always. And you know, looking back, I don't know, there was like so many incidents. Like, just one time I remember at school, my dad had beat up I'm like all over the place, I'm sorry, but I was in like first grade and my dad had beat up my mom. And she was taking me to school and she had this like Velcro cast on her foot and she could hardly walk and stuff. And I remember being so worried about her having to go to the hospital that I could barely hold it together. She took me to school and I didn't say nothing to her, but she took me to school and I just fell apart at school. And I remember the teacher took me in the lunchroom, had me sit with the lunch ladies, and they fed me cereal and stuff, and I never said nothing. We never told nothing. I don't know why, but you know, I think the adults really failed us looking back. But anyways, back to what I was saying. By the time I'm like 10 years old, whenever my mom and dad were together, even though it was so dysfunctional and stuff, my pap, enabling my dad, always made sure we had a home. I was always grateful for that, especially now as an adult, because we always had a place to stay, whether it was with them, my nan and pap, or if they paid the bills for my parents to have their own house. And I always remember my nan and pap always bringing us to church. I only remember my parents going to church a couple times, but my nan and pap would pick us up and we would go to church and stuff. And so when my brother's born and my mom leaves, that was crazy. My dad cut up all our clothes, mine and my sister's too, shot our dog and our cat, not in front of us or nothing, but you know, he made sure to tell us, the dog and the cat are dead, I shot them, your mom's a fucking whore, and you know, just whatever. So, but deep down secretly, as all this is going on, I'm like, yes, we're finally getting away from Dad. Awesome. So my mom runs off with this Jeff guy, and things got worse. My mom was so wrapped up in her world with him, she started like leaving the three of us home alone. Sometimes for days at a time. And not only that, her boyfriend hated us, all three of us. He especially hated me, he said, because I looked like my dad. He abused my brother. He would, my brother was just learning to walk and stuff, and he would when he would come over and spend the night, he would put my brother in a cardboard box and put him down in the basement, and that's where he is. My mom never did nothing, never lifted a finger to say nothing or anything. I remember one time we was in the car, he drove us to Amish country. It was supposed to be like a fun thing or whatever. And he never wanted us kids around, so anytime he did want anything to do with us, even if we were scared of what was going to happen, we were still happy just to be around. And the trip to Amish country, we went there, and he bought a jar of hot sausages and force-fed them to my brother while he puked all over the bed and made us watch. It was the weirdest thing. This guy hated us, and but yet he bought me a motorcycle and taught me how to ride a motorcycle, and he taught me how to drive a car. But other than that, he just didn't want us around. So I started running away and stuff. I had this friend at one of our schools where we lived when my brother was a baby. She had a really bad home life too, and she lived by us, and me and her, we would just stay gone for days. I mean, like, by the time I was 12 years old, I wasn't coming home sometimes for 2 or 3 days, and my mother didn't care. One time she left and went to Missouri, and in our backyard, we had a wood burner, so we had this big pile of wood that we would just get wood off of to keep the house warm, and up the one side where we got the wood from was fine, but if you went up to the pile of wood and down to the other side, there was a real mean dog on that side, and it had bit me before. And I looked out the back door one time, and my little baby brother was he was almost up to the top of the wood pile. So I ran out there and I grabbed him, and on the way down I slipped and fell and broke his leg. And my mom still didn't come home for about a day and a half after that. He cried. Me and my sister would hold him, he'd cry. Couldn't put him down, he'd cry. There was just no relief. Another time he fell and broke his collarbone on the wood burner, but she was home when that happened. So it was almost like once we started being left alone all the time, it was like my little sister kind of fell into the nurturer position for my brother, and I kind of took over, like, you know, like getting the firewood and stuff. And we weren't allowed to see my Nan and Pat because her boyfriend said that he didn't want us to have nothing to do with my dad or his family or anything. So, like, that source of comfort that we had was just gone. I remember one time we all sat down at the table, and he had me and my sister write down my Nan and Pat's phone number and gave it to him, and we didn't know what for, and then we gave it to him. He said he was going to have somebody go kill him. So I remember after that, just every day waiting to hear if Nan and Pat were dead. So I started staying gone all the time, and, you know, like I said, I was like 12 years old, staying out for days, not coming home. So, you know, I got myself into some situations, me and my friend that I had talked about. We started hanging out with older kids and partying. I started drinking all the time. I was using drugs by this point. I had been raped a few times, and I still never said nothing. It never occurred to me to say anything. I never thought anybody would care. Me and my sister, I know I haven't mentioned her much. My mom always called us Cain and Abel. We're only 13 months apart, but we've never gotten along, ever. Not even as kids, not now. But, I mean, we did stick together through those times when we had to, you know. So, I just lived on the streets wherever I could, giving my body away for places to lay my head and stuff. And that continued on for a long time. Probably a good 10 years I was out in the streets. And, you know, there's the trauma that comes from being homeless alone is just something I still struggle with today. I don't know how to interact with people well. I struggle with that. My dad, he always carried a lot of shame, and he instilled that shame into us from as long as I can remember. Anytime we messed up or he got mad or something was wrong, it wasn't because we were kids we needed to learn. It was why don't you try to act like a fucking human for once in your life? And it was always because something was wrong with us. And I forgot my notes.
You're doing fine.
So I lived on the streets for a long time. My nan and pap. Okay, let me go back to whenever I was 12. Okay, I'm back.
You're fine.
So,
Take a breath.
so my mom's boyfriend got tired of my shit. You know, I used to lay in bed at night with my baby brother and just think about killing this man. I hated him. And so he got tired of me causing problems, running away, you know what I mean? Basically, like taking up my mom's time because she had other shit to deal with, like her kid, which didn't happen much. So I wanted to move out, and I insisted on moving out after I ran away several times and stuff. And so I don't really remember actually exactly how it happened, but my uncle, my mom's brother in Tennessee, I ended up going to West Virginia to my grandma's and then getting a ride down there with my aunt, and I lived there for a year and a half. And as much as I hated what I left behind, I would have never thought, and I didn't think at 12 years old, I didn't realize what it was, but I got very, very, very depressed. As weird as it sounds, in a normal home. I went to Tennessee, everything was normal, and I got so depressed. I started getting an eating disorder. I really didn't use much the year and a half that I was in Tennessee with my uncle because he spent time with me. Even if we were just doing like farm work or something, I always had stuff to do. There was structure, you know what I mean? And all of that was so foreign to me, I got very depressed. My aunt even told me, one time she said, if you don't start going out and doing stuff with your friends, you're gonna be grounded. And I was like, okay, grounded from what? I don't wanna do anything. I was super depressed. And I lived there for like a year and a half, and everything was fine, but we were planning a visit to visit my grandparents in West Virginia. And I was smart enough to know that my uncle didn't have custody of me, and he couldn't stop me. So I planned on not coming back to Tennessee from that visit in West Virginia. And I kept it to myself. I packed a big trash bag. I mean, we was only going to be gone for a few days, and I had this huge trash bag. And they didn't say anything, and whenever we went and had our visit and it was time to leave, I just flat out refused to get in the car. My uncle was crying and pleading with me to come and everything. I just wouldn't. So I stayed at my grandparents for a couple days, and of course my grandma, my mom's mom, couldn't have me there because, you know, I'm a delinquent by this point, and I got a drinking problem, and it blows my mind looking back, like, how everything was just like so, it's like I was born into this pile of shit, and then by the time I was 12 years old, you know what I mean, I have the adults telling me I'm a delinquent, it's my fault, I smell like shit, you know what I mean, just... So, by this time, the family didn't even really want me around because nobody wanted to deal with my issues. So I stayed in West Virginia, and my grandpa and my grandma, which is my mom's mom and dad in West Virginia, tried to get a hold of my mom and tell them, you know, Rita's got to come home. Chris already left. And they couldn't get a hold of my mom, none of that. And we knew where she lived, we knew her phone number. She just knew what was going on and wanted to try to avoid me coming back. So my uncle's friend, he lived in Ohio, and he came down for a visit, and he said, well, I could take her back with me and take her to Sue's house. So that's what happened. I rode back with him, lifelong family friend. We went to my mom's house, and she opened the door and slammed it right in our faces. So I stayed with my uncle's friend for a couple days, which, went really well and stuff. And then he was like, well, I got kids and stuff, you can't stay here. So they figured out for me to go stay at my uncle's other friends that also was a friend of the family my whole life. Just kind of, I don't know what they were thinking about doing with me or what was going on at this point, but so my uncle's other friend came and picked me up, and the first night I was there, he raped me. Nobody but Jeff knows about that to this day. I've thought about telling my uncle before, because that guy still comes and stays at his house for fishing trips sometimes and stuff. After that, that's when the bottom dropped out. I think I ran away from there, and I just went to old neighborhoods and partied with people, and I would party with my dad sometimes. I never had a home. I never had a home after that. I mean, I kind of feel like I should elaborate on the streets some more, but y'all have been there. Plus, it's kind of like a blur, I mean, there was times. Okay, let me go back. So, I was on the streets for a while, but then by the time I'm 15, my Nan and Pap, I somehow, no, I'm like 14, I moved in with my Nan and Pap, and at this time they were driving truck together. They were driving team, and I ended up coming home, so my Nan quit going on the road and stayed at home with me. And that's when I met my daughter's dad. I went to school a little bit for like a year, and then I just ended up quitting school. I have a 26-year-old daughter. I met her dad when I was 16, or no, I was 17. I knew him for a month when I found out I was pregnant, and so we just got high together all the time and stuff. His mom was a meth dealer, and she would give us meth to clean our house and do our dishes and stuff like that. I used a lot when I was pregnant, a lot. So here I am. I have the baby. We have our own apartment and stuff, and he started cooking meth and having meth labs in the house whenever Crystal was just a baby. He would literally tape blankets up around the doorways and stuff and tell us to stay in the bedroom and not come out until the blankets were down because of the air and everything. I was pretty naive. I thought because we're having a baby that we was just going to calm down. I thought the baby was going to change things, and we had an apartment. We were checking the boxes. That didn't work. So me and him, we got really strung out together. By the time my daughter was 3 years old, I had another baby, and he never came home from the hospital with us. He was born a month and a half premature, and he was born with drugs in his system. With him, I quit using meth whenever I was around 5 months pregnant. And so I was about a month and a half, and I quit using everything for about a month and a half. And then one night, my baby's dad's friend came over and smoked a blunt, and I hit the blunt and went into labor. So I went to the hospital and had the baby 2 days later with weed in my system and weed in the baby's system, so they wouldn't let me have them. I don't know how they would be about marijuana now, but back then things were different. Plus, I forgot to mention that, or no wait, I didn't have that yet. So things were different. So plus he had issues from being born a month and a half premature. So he stayed in the hospital and I went home. And he was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and by the time he had come home, I don't even think I had him a week. And Children's Services took the kids because in the meantime when all this happened, I talked to the father of my children, and I told him, I was like, we got to do something. We're drug addicts. We have a problem. We have these babies, and I talked him into asking my PAP for help. I said, please, they'll help us. I know they will. So he went for a car ride with my grandpa, talked to him and everything, and my grandpa called Children's Services on us. I don't know why. I think maybe he thought that they were going to help us. I think he was kind of naive to the system. Because he helped me try to keep the kids after that. But I ended up losing them. And after I lost them, me and him broke up pretty quickly. Me and him broke up before I even lost the kids, but after I lost them, it wasn't long where I just went off the deep end, and I signed my rights over. My grandpa, he's like, they're going to go into foster care if you're not going to do what you need to do to get them back, but if you sign over your rights so I can adopt them, I will. So I did. And that's it. I learned to cook dope. I was cooking meth. I wasn't going to see my kids. I had supervised visitations. I was missing. The apartment that me and her dad lived in was 2 buildings over from a biker bar called The Winding. And after I was at that apartment alone without anybody there with me, I just started hanging out at that bar, drinking all the time. I ended up being really good friends with the owner, which was a meth cook. I got real deep. I don't want to say like affiliated because it wasn't anything to do with the club for me, but I got in real good with these bikers, and I don't know how. Looking back, a lot of my story, I'm like, wow, that was God. I started hanging out with the biker clubhouse with them, and that was like the closest thing I had to a home for probably 10 years. I could just show up there, I could knock on the door, I could sleep on the couch, I could, smoke some dope, I could get a meal, whatever. Like, that was my people. That was as functional as it got for me. I could shower. So I cooked dope for a while, and one thing I wanted to make sure I mentioned whenever I was doing my lead in my head all week. My addiction, whenever I was cooking dope, I didn't do it for the money. I didn't care about the money. I didn't want to be alone. I wanted people around me, and I always felt like I'm not enough. Just me is not enough to bring to the table, and even if I did, what would I do? How would I act? You know what I mean? So I always knew as long as I had dope on me that people would hang out with me and people would be around me and stuff. And I never had no money. Like I said, I didn't care about the money. So I don't know, I guess maybe the bikers, a lot of them were a lot older than me. Maybe they felt sorry for me or something, I don't know. But a couple of them guys, 2 of them guys, the one ended up being, he helped me learn to love myself. So I'm cooking meth with the bikers and stuff, and I got caught, and I go to prison. Well, I went to prison 2 other times before this. I skipped a lot. That was in my Bolero on the streets, 2 prison numbers. But the third time, the first time I did 6 months, which was a nap. The second time I did a year, couldn't wait to get out and get high. It's what I wanted to do, it's what I did. Wasn't worried about my kids, wasn't worried about my grandparents. But the third time, I did 4 years, which was long enough to sit and think about things, you know? Whenever I got there, the day I got to the penitentiary was my oldest daughter's birthday. And I remember hearing that gate lock behind the van, thinking, here you are again, you know what I mean? Like, and, you know, at this point, my whole life, I still thought something was wrong with me. It never dawned on me that, like, other people do these things too. So, 4 years is a long time, so as soon as I got there, I started trying to think about how am I going to get out. Of course, I want my judicial. So they got this program there. It's called Tapestry, and it's a therapeutic community, and it's basically inpatient treatment where you just program like it's your job 40 hours a week, and you work the steps, you do groups. I mean, you go hard doing all that stuff. There's really no breaks but for the weekends. And that program, when I first got in there, and you know, also again with the bikers, I was a product of my environment. I didn't want nothing to do with people who weren't white. I didn't want nothing to do with people who weren't on meth. You know what I mean? Like, I was still trying to move like that in prison. And so I get to prison and they have that program and stuff, and I think, well, shoot, I'm going to do this program and get my judicial. And I didn't know it, but they had just made a rule that, because the program was really intense, and they had just made a rule that once you sign in the program, you're stuck for 90 days. You're not moving. You're not going nowhere. So after my first couple days, I started freaking out, and my counselor was this black woman, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not programming. I was like, y'all are gonna have to put me in the hole to get me out of here because I'm not staying. Long story short, God bless that woman. I love her. She helped me love myself enough to fight for my. Miss McGee. That's where I did this is my second thing I've ever done. My first one was in the program. So I worked through a lot of trauma. I was only in there for 6 months, but I worked through a lot. I worked through a lot of the thing that was fueling my addiction was the abuse I seen my brother go through, and also my mom. But I remember the first time I tried to talk about the abuse my brother went through out loud, I just fell to pieces in front of everybody. I couldn't even talk. I was sobbing, and I realized, you know, the more you talk about things, it helps, it heals. Community really does heal. I just learned that. It's kind of funny since I scheduled this right now. In the meantime, I watched this show on YouTube called Soft White Underbelly, and it's just like random people telling their stories. It's like lead after lead after lead. So I've been binge watching that for 2 weeks. And somebody said something that stuck with me, and I just have realized this: community heals. It does. I told Jeff on the way here, I said, I'm going to start talking to people like you and Larry do. So. Just don't be flaky. So there was a lot of healing that took place in that community in prison. And we got our own special dorm, our privileged dorm we got to stay in and stuff. And there was counselors there all the time during the day. So, I'm shaking. So I do my 4 years. I learned, like I said, I did a lot of healing in that program. I learned a lot, but I wasn't done yet. I just didn't know it. I do my 4 years and I get out. And my sister and her husband, my sister had a baby while I was gone, so I have a 2-year-old niece. Met my brother-in-law. They picked me up and moved me into their 1-bedroom apartment when I got out, and so here I am living on their couch. And I work in second shift at a heat treating factory where I was the only female. So I have my routine. I was still a creature of habit from being locked up. I woke up, hung out at home a little bit, went to work, got off work at midnight, went and got my bottle of wine, drank my bottle of wine, and went to bed and did it the next day all over again. And so I was out maybe like 2 or 3 months, and I just got off work and drank my bottle of wine, and my friend Josh calls me and he says, "Hey, what are you doing? Blah, 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 whatever, you want me to come pick you up?" And I was like, "Not really, no, I'm just getting ready, I'm about to go to bed, I gotta work." And I hear a voice in the background, and I was like, "Who's that?" He said, "Jeff Burton," and I was like, "All right, come get me." And so, it's late, it's like 2 in the morning or something by the time they get there. So they get there, and they're in the front of the car, and Jeff's in the back seat by himself, and I get in the back seat with Jeff, and I did not know it then, but God had just sent me an angel. Yeah, we was inseparable ever since then. And he had just got out of prison. I'd only been out a couple months, and I'd been out like 4 months, and I think he just got out like, what, 2 months? 1 month?
To the day.
Yeah. And so, here's me and Jeff, you know. I got all my tools, everything I learned in the program, and it's so crazy because when he was just in prison, he did the same program.
9 months of it.
9 months of it.
In the
So
county
he
jail
knew
in New
the
Jersey.
workbook lingo
Wow.
and everything, you know.
Wow.
But we did good. We were sober together for a few months. Going back to the biker thing, whenever I was cooking meth with the bikers, the night before I got locked up when I went to prison, I just cooked a batch of meth at one of the bikers' houses. And then we parted ways, and I ended up catching a case on my own and getting arrested for that. But I knew because I was just at his house the night before that that's who was going to bottom me out. Because we really didn't know each other like that, so I knew that he wasn't going to want me sitting in there afraid that I might tell or something like that. So I had somebody's mom that was in the pod with me call his number and tell him that I was in jail, and he came and bonded me out. And then I ended up going to prison and doing my time anyway. So then I get out and run into Jeff. Me and Jeff have known each other since elementary school, but I have this joke that, like, you know, if we wouldn't have moved around so much whenever I was younger, we probably would have had 10 kids by now. But, so we're doing good for a couple months and stuff, and Jeff starts going to these meetings to join a motorcycle club. It was just like a charity thing where they would do runs to raise money for kids and stuff. It wasn't like outlaw stuff, like who I was cooking meth with and everything, but they were like, you know, trying to make their name known out in public and stuff, and do, you know, being out there and stuff. And I told, no wait, I'm skipping stuff. Let me go back. During the time that me and Jeff, we were sober together for probably 5 months, and, well, not sober, we weren't on meth. Let me say that. We weren't sober, we weren't on meth. I was drinking a lot then, and so was he, but, things were going good, and, I got pregnant. And it happened pretty quick. From the time I found out I was pregnant till the time I lost the baby was maybe only like a month, if that. But we was both pretty upset about that. Actually, when we relapsed was when we lost the baby. We went to the hospital so I could take the medicine to make me pass everything and stuff like that. And on the way home from the hospital, I just said, Jeff, I want to get high. So that's what we did. We stopped and got high. And you know, every time you get high isn't going to be the end of the world. We had our little secret date nights and our little secret time that like nobody knew we was high. We was just at home kicking it. You know what I mean? But that was very few and far between. And every time you feed the beast, it just gets bigger. And that's what happened. So we're just kind of dibbling and dabbling, thinking we still got it together and stuff. And it was almost like we both made a conscious decision to dive back in head first, because like I said, this motorcycle club they were starting was trying to get out there and get known out there and stuff. And I told Jeff one time, the guy that bonded me out, I told Jeff, I said, I owe him money for my bond, and I would rather bring it up to him on my terms than run into him and have him bring it up to me. You know what I mean? Like street code.
Reservation.
Yeah. And I was literally holding the phone. We lived at his mom's from where I was pregnant. She let me move in. But we had already lost the baby. I'm literally holding the phone, and I said, Jeff, I can make a phone call, but I'm telling you, if I do, our lives are going to change very quick and very drastically. And he said, make the phone call. So I did. And that's what happened. Shit changed. It wasn't long. It wasn't no time at all. We got our own apartment. Moved out of his mom's. Jeff was still working and stuff, but at this point, but I wasn't. I was just getting high all day. Even at his mom's house, I mean, we didn't have an air conditioner upstairs, and it's summertime, and I'm sitting upstairs in the attic getting high. It's 100 degrees, and his mom's downstairs, like she didn't know what I was doing. You know what I mean? So we got our own apartment. We moved into our own place. And it was literally like one street down from the clubhouse. And, you know, that's my people, so we don't gotta pay for dope. We can just go there and stay high. We started shooting dope. The bottom dropped out. I cooked one batch of dope in our apartment. I swear to God I would never do that again, and I won't. Thank God, by the grace of God, I ended up not getting as much as I was supposed to. We only had a little bit. Thank God. And so, you know, the reason I said God sent me an angel when he sent me Jeff is because I didn't know how to have a home. And I would run, anytime I would get high, because I had been doing this, I'd been through this by now. I went to prison, I sobered up, it was like a stepping stone path, and there was, you know, let's say 12 steps, and I knew what step I was on and what was next. I could see it coming. I knew. And it was like Jeff was like a reflection of myself. Like every time I looked at him and I seen him deteriorating and stuff, it just made me hate myself. So I broke up with him, and I just tried to run. I tried to run, and he came and found me. He came and found me, and he said, we're moving to Florida with my and Jill. We're going to get better. And I said, okay. So that's what we did. We went to Florida. His Aunt Jill, bless her heart, the lady never met me a day in her life, and I slept on her couch for 5 days. My daughter's middle name is named after her. And we did good there. I don't know. We stayed there for about a year, and I do know what made us come back. We started working on, Jeff had always worked on the road traveling, doing lights and stuff, and you know, I always drank, but to me, being an alcoholic is doing good. Just drinking is doing good. So I started traveling. I was staying at Aunt Jill's, and Jeff left and went on the road, and I stayed with Aunt Jill for a while, and then I started traveling with Jeff, actually working with his company and stuff. And that had kind of came to an end. There wasn't really much work left, especially for the only girl. You know what I mean? I could tell they was kind of trying to get me to do something else. So when my oldest daughter turned 18 and graduated high school, Jeff got us a house in her little hometown where she had grew up without me. And yay, I'm going to be a mom now. She's 18. She can come around. Well, let me tell you, just because your kid's around you doesn't make you a parent. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm super bad at this. Me and her, I relapsed and took her with me. Me and my 18-year-old, we relapsed together. And that went on for a while. She ended up leaving and moving out and living in her car with her dad in Kenmore for a while. And me and Jeff moved back to Florida, you know, to run away from everything again. Oh, we took her with us. I forgot that part. We took her with us. I did do that. We all three, higher than hell, loaded up a U-Haul with whatever we could and took off to Florida. And, oh yeah, by this time, I'm pregnant again. And I'm like 5 months pregnant, using stuff still. Me and Jeff broke up because of that. So then I tried to run. He came and found me again and brought me home. And we went to Florida again. And that's where the baby was born. We have a 7-year-old daughter named Journey. Today she told me, I want to do a lead. I said, well, it's for grown-ups. You can't do it. But, so whenever we had her, we kind of just, you know, things changed. I never knew. I just knew I didn't want that baby to ever feel like I did when I was little. I was too damaged to keep my first 2 kids. It wasn't because I didn't love them, it was because I didn't know how to love them. One of my bunkies in prison told me one time, and I've always thought, this has always stuck with me. She said, you know, Rita, love isn't sacred until you learn how to use it. A dog loves its chew toy, but it'll turn around and chew the hell out of it. Chew it to shreds. You gotta know how to love to make it special. And I've always remembered that.
Yeah.
How long has it been?
You got 47 minutes. You're 47 minutes in.
Oh, okay. Well, then,
On her lead.
Jeff's my cameraman. Well, then I'm about done then. Well, no, I ain't done. I do want to say, after we had Journey, we still had our little secret date nights sometimes that no one knew about, stuff like that. We was doing good. We got married when Journey was, how old was she, like 2? Yeah, 2.
2.5.
And we had got high almost a year when we got married, and we relapsed on our wedding day. And that just, I resented that so much, it sent me back out. Next thing you know, I'm sitting at the dinner table high as hell, can't eat, telling Jeff I ain't high. He knew I was. I remember his sister, I told his sister, I said, I've been getting high and hiding it from Jeff. She said, you're not hiding it from Jeff, I'm telling you that now. And, you know, it just went on and on and on again, feeding the beast until it split us up. Jeff came home from work one time. We lived in West Virginia. We had this girl staying with us that had mental disabilities to where she could barely take care of herself. And Jeff came home from work one day and she's there with Journey. I left and went to Akron with the dope dealer and that girl's boyfriend, because he had their social security checks. So I took him to Akron. And that's when everything really fell apart. I just abandoned our family and went back out again and getting high. And me and Jeff split up. We was split up for 2 years, but it's weird because after I started getting so high again, it was like I just knew I had to stop. I was going to lose Journey, especially without Jeff. Something was going to happen. I was going to lose her. So I stopped. I started drinking more, but I quit getting high. I spent the last 2 years, I spent 2 years in West Virginia. I was drinking bootleggers and 12 packs of Twisted Teas every day, driving around with my daughter, going to things at school. I mean, I would sit in the car and drink a bootlegger, shove an empty bottle under my car seat, and walk into school. And things just got really out of control. I mean, I don't know how I never hurt myself or nobody else, thank God. So to kind of just bring everything to a close, and I know I was all over the place. Jeff and I have been back together for almost a year now, both sober. Journey's doing good. And I still have a hard time with community, but community heals. I learned that. It does. I'm going to remember that forever. Thank you guys for listening to me and let me get this out of my head and off my chest. And I hope that it helped everybody somehow.
You can sit in this little hot seat right here. And I'm going to look forward to comments.
Yeah, my name is Dante. I'm not calling you Adam. That's, for you to have courage to go through that and say all that stuff, but like God speaking through you, you answered some questions for me that I like when you talk about community, but like that's what it's all about. Like I'm at, I'm not even I'm trying to difficult my fourth step, and like I got some issues going on, but like I'm so happy for you and Jeff how you've been through it. But like you answered a question, whether you know it or not, I'm not going to go into. You answered 2 questions for me. Thank you so much for having the courage to care enough to do this program how you're doing, like in community, like I'm in the community, like I've been like in these rooms, like that was so great. I'm glad I came here, and like I'm ready to go to another meeting, but like that was like you answered a big question for me. God speaking through you for real. Like thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I'm so happy for you and all that. I'm gonna pass with that. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. I got a lot out of your talk. When you first started talking, I could relate, but you left me in the dust. I just praise God that you are sober today, and that you have Jeff, and that I know you, and I can really relate to the one thing about having the social issues. It's hard for me to be in community also. I have social issues. I just have to keep giving them to Jesus. Just keep leaning into Him. Sometimes I just have to force myself to go to meetings and do social things. Thank you.
Get your paper.
Thank you for you did a good job.
Thank you, Mike.
My name is William King. I'm alcoholic addict, and it's a pleasure meeting you, Rita, seeing you for the first time. And said a lot of things in your story about Jeff, that he didn't give up. He didn't give up, you know what I'm saying? He kept pursuing, you know what I'm saying? Because he believed in you. So, with that being said, I pass.
Thank you.
Rita, I want to thank you for your lead. I tell you, commend you. You did a very excellent job because reviewing your story, dysfunctional family, and you have to relive every minute of that. When you stand up here and give your lead, you did an excellent job. And we've been praying for y'all. So I'm seeing you guys answer prayer.
Amen.
Now,
Amen.
Because you're living in it now. God bless you both.
Thank you.
Thanks, Arnett.
Anybody else?
Just one more thing. Thank you for the rigorous honesty and everything. I know, like, it's good, you know, really good, really good.
Good job.
Babe, thanks. You left a lot out, but we don't. We only had an hour. And listen, hey, stuff was really crazy, and we were in a really dark place, and I was there to be the witness. Without that darkness, I don't see. I couldn't have seen this light that's in me right now, and what I'm doing with my family, and when I made the decision to lock in on getting my family back and praying without ceasing and giving it all to God, and that's when I got.
It happened.
I let it go, and I told him what it was, and he answered my prayers numerous times. You know, my brother here, Arnett, prayed for me for us. I mean, we got some prayer warriors on the phone every morning, 7:00 a.m. We seek God, and thank you, babe, for sharing most of your story. And I know some of that was really hard, and I've only heard a lot of that just myself, and I know that you've expressed that to me, and that's bravery, getting up there and in front of strangers and giving your story like that. I love you, and
Your inspiration.
yeah, to a lot of people, yeah.
Made me want to work harder on my 12 steps.
But thank you so much, babe. I love you.
I love all you guys.
They should have been here, man. They would learn something.
Any other comments? Brittany was the young lady sitting there, she had to leave, but she wanted me to share this with you. Let me tell you this, though, you really touched her, and I'm sharing this because I'm allowed to share this. Said again. Part of your story, she really, I'm going to get emotional now. She really related to, and she's struggling because she said there's nobody else that's been through that. And then you stood up here tonight, I had chills. You just stood up here and told that part of her.
Amen. Amen.
So,
Prayers answered right there,
you
babe.
being here tonight behind this podium and just this few select people being here, whatever, it was what it was meant to be.
Amen.
And this little thing here, so it says, the bottom of it, the prayer, it says, I pray to be guided in my efforts to help another person today. Let me be selective in my sharing of experience, strength, and hope to make sure his or her needs are met.
Amen.
And that's absolutely what you did tonight. But parts of your story, I'm sitting back there at the desk, like, and then you started talking, I started getting antsy in my seat. I had to get up because you were telling my story. If you take out the Florida part of your story and change that to South Carolina, you were telling my story. I've been to Marysville twice, been to the tapestry program.
I didn't say tapestry, I didn't think anybody would know.
And,
Do you know Miss McGee?
Yes.
Oh, I love her. I love that woman.
That feeling and those feelings you're talking about from being homeless just go. And you know, my son's dad is part of motorcycle club up Kenmore.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
No, a lot of the same
so
people.
when I got to that point, I was just like, you know, and my husband actually passed away in 2021, but he was a truck driver for years from Worcester, and it was just crazy. Like I just felt like you were in my mind back there, like telling my story, and everybody, you know, somebody just asked me not too long ago, why do people get so excited when they hear somebody else tell their story from that podium? Because it makes me know that no matter how long I have in these rooms or how many days I have, I really only have today.
Amen.
I really only have today to stay sober. I only have today to put God in charge of my life.
Amen.
I need to hear those things. I need to hear that there's somebody with 10 months that has those struggles and struggles in their life that I had. And you're sober for 10 months. That gives me hope I can do it for another 10 months. So, you know, I really appreciate. Oh, and I used to hide in my closet and eat crayons when I was little. So you have the one box I have in the closet. And, my mom, she jokes now because she asked the pediatrician when I was little, and he was like, "No, they're non-toxic." She said, "No, I beg to differ. There's something in the crayons." So I appreciate you coming down to share with us tonight. It was really a good message of hope and inspiration. So thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. thank you all for coming out tonight. We're always happy to have you here. If you're new here, we want you to know the same God that pulled us out of darkness is ready to rewrite your story too.
Come on.
Don't wait for the change, be the change. Does anybody have any announcements for the good of recovery? I just have one. On August 29th, it's going to be the end of summer sober picnic. I promise you it'll be the coolest event you go to all summer. It's here in Canton at, on Maple Street. There'll be free food. It's from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Food will be done at noon. There'll be kid games, adult games, kickball, dance competition, raffle baskets. Everything is free unless you want to buy t-shirts. So come out and join the fun. And I have a certificate for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
All right, let's see it, man.
For the good of people in the program,
Yes.
Jesus Christ has promised us he will never leave us or forsake us.
That's
Amen.
absolutely correct.
Amen.
Amen.
The 15th at Portage Lake State Park. You guys want to come join us? We have a picnic, second annual this year. If
15th at Portage Lakes.
yeah, Portage Lakes,
What time?
1 to 4.
It's just a recovery picnic.
Yeah, just a recovery picnic. Kind of just something we started this year.